It was just a week ago that President Donald Trump was bragging about his efforts to increase oil prices by working on a deal between his good buddies, the strongman who's the head of Russia and the strongman who's the head of Saudi Arabia. Well, the Wall Street Journal editorial praised the president for his bold leadership saving U.S. shale producers. That was a week ago. Today, 1 week later, U.S. oil prices plunged into negative territory. The price settled at, get this, negative $37 per barrel, which is down 305%, meaning people would pay you today to take their oil off their hands. It is actually the first time in the history of oil markets this happened. What exactly does it mean? Why did it happen? What happens next? For all that, we go to one of our favorite independent oil traders, energy market expert, Dan Dicker. He's the founder and host of the interactive webinar, The Energy Word, among other things. And Dan, I had one of my lifelong buddies literally text me, I got to hear from Dan Dicker today about the negative oil prices. So here you are. Why did oil go negative today? What happened?
Well, basically what you have is you had the coronavirus, which had killed demand. So a third of demand has come out of the global market. But of course, a third of supply hasn't come out of the global market, despite the great deal that President Trump had managed to put together for 10 million barrels. So 30 million barrels of oil is the surplus that we have right now. But 10 million barrels is what's cut. So there's 20 extra million barrels just sloshing around with no place to go. All the storage is filled up. And when all the storage is filled up, there's nobody who wants the oil. In fact, you got to pay people to take it away. And that's what you saw today in the spot markets in crude.
Right. So I read that these are futures contracts that close on May. And when the contract closes, you got to deliver the oil in actually a specific place. This is West Texas crude. So it's got to go to Oklahoma. So there's actually a bottleneck. You just there's not the space to offload all this oil.
Right. The futures market, as you know, is a financial system. So, money changes hands. But when we get to this end of time when the contract is actually due, we've got to turn this into real physical oil. And that changes the game entirely. And you need to have people who actually take it or are going to deliver it. And right now, nobody will take it.
So what does this mean? I mean, what are the sort of reverberations? I've heard that, this is just because the end of May contracts are looking so dicey, but then there'll be future contracts after that, and it'll come back up. But oil's going to just be crushed for the foreseeable future, right? What does that mean more generally?
Yeah, I kind of look at oil as a canary in the coal mine here, Chris, and thinking about it as if, people are being entirely too optimistic about, what COVID-19 is going to do to the global economy in the long term, not in the short term. I mean, you can protest all you want and you can, say to liberate Minnesota. But the truth is that no matter what you try and do and restart an economy, nobody's going to a restaurant, as much as going to see a baseball game or a concert or 100 other things that would indicate a normal global economy going forward. So oil may be the canary in a coal mine. There may be repercussions through places we haven't even seen yet that are going to keep the economies cratered, not just oil, for a long, long time until we have, a vaccine. And that could be a year and a half away. I think that what this is telling me, at least, is that, we've been far too optimistic about how this is going to play out in the long term economically. And I think oil is telling you a story about how bad things are still going to get going forward.
So you think the oil market might be correctly pricing in the level of future economic activity right now, the signal that there's a signal here that's other than sort of market panic, which again, sometimes markets panic and they don't necessarily send you some intelligent signal about the future. But you're saying to the extent there is an intelligent signal about the future, a sort of forward predictive price that's happening here, it's this market saying this is going to be a while, demand's going to be down for a while.
It did it in 2007. Oil started crashing well before the financial crisis hit in 2008. I mean, it has been known to be an indicator. Think about automobiles, for example, Chris. I mean, if you have 20% unemployment and, automobiles, millions, 15, 20 million of them are leases, how many of those leases are going to get thrown back at the banks? And what are the banks going to do with all these cars? And cars prices are going to crater, and nobody's going to be able to sell a car. Nobody in this country wants to buy a car. There's going to be tremendous pressure on banks that have all of these loans, basically, that they're getting back with cars that have very little value.
Right.
They're going to see cars go down the way crude did, closer to zero. And this, reverberates in 1,000 different ways where we could call, any commodity, not just oil, as being a victim of this virus and the cratering that's going on in the global economy. So I just don't believe that we've seen anywhere near the worst of all of this. And I think oil is telling that story right now.
All right, Dan Dicker, always great to have you on explaining these things. Thanks a lot.